right, here we are live again on Thursday afternoon, and really excited to bring to you the very first edition of We Are Women Educating in Automotive Retention and Excellence. And today I am joined by my co-host, Katie Mares,
Hi.
Tracy Fields, the Chief Experience Officer at Premier Automotive,
Hi.
Skylar Van Skoyak, Vice President of Operations at Resurrection Automotive, and Ruth Wisniewski, Head of Customer Success
All
for Velo.
right.
Thank you all for joining us today.
Yes.
We are, see how well that works. Really excited to be bringing this into the space. As we all know, there's a shortage in the industry of women, yes, but in general, there is a shortage of labor, right? And we need to be able to attract more people into the industry to help us solve that shortage. Certainly, it can be helped by more women coming in. And along with that also comes everything that more women coming into the organizations brings with them, which typically is better organization, a strong culture, and an environment where people feel included and want to come and work. And so, Katie, I know you're at a conference right now. You're all over the place speaking.
Yeah.
Yes. So what are some of the things that you're seeing as you're out there?
You know, I'm at the Agent Summit right now in Vegas, and I just did a book signing last night, and it was really nice to see, compared to previous Agent Summits where we saw 2 or 3 women walking around. There's like at least a handful of women this year, which is really, really nice to see. And there's a lot more women because they're seeing women. They're being more forward. They're raising their hand. They're putting their hand out. They're introducing themselves to the other women. And so what's really cool, what I've seen in the last 24 hours being here, is the community that I see starting to be built. And I was just at the IS20G. I was the opening keynote speaker there 48 hours ago. So I went from Baltimore to Vegas, and I was there with Skylar, and we did an amazing women's panel as well. And we were talking about this exact subject. But what was really cool, and Skylar, you could probably speak to this, is that it wasn't just men in the audience. There were men in the audience, but there was also women, and those men had sponsored those women to be there, which was really, really cool. And they all got into the conversation. And so what I am seeing is baby steps, a little bit of a shift happening. But I believe it starts with, awareness. So it's all over. It's all online. It's the best time to be in the automotive space as a woman, I think, because the spotlight is being shined on equality and on inclusion, and now is the right time to, raise your hand. I hope you don't mind me saying this, Ruth, but Ruth is like, I invited myself to this event right now. And I'm like, but I love that, because that's what we need to do. We need to, put our hand out there, find yourself mentors, find yourself sponsors, build your community, and build your seat at the table. Cause that's what men do, right? They put their hand out, they build their seat. They say, I might not be able to do it, but then they do it anyways. And they say yes, and they figure it out. So thank you, Ruth. I love that you did that. And that's what I see is happening with more women. As I am going around to conferences, I'm seeing more and more women show up. And more importantly, I'm seeing more and more women raise their hand or, put out their hand to make that introduction for themselves.
Katie, it's interesting that you brought that up about the conference. Hope it's okay if I just jump in.
Yeah, of course.
We had a conference when I first started at Velo, just a strategic kickoff, internal conference for all of our brands and products that we have. And they asked me to speak, and I did one on career progression and how to improve your career. And I would say half the people in the room were women, and they came up afterwards and they were like, that was helpful, but I want more. So we actually started a mentoring program at Velo. So I'm just wondering, Skylar, Tracy, anything like that at your organization?
Yeah, that's something that's definitely, we're growing right now. We had there's that old saying, when you see a need, take the lead. And like a couple years ago, I just saw that it was ironic, because when COVID forced us all to relook at the way we do things and we have processes, I noticed it obviously, with everyone else, it worked really well, but the flexibility of it really allowed a lot of our female employees to sort of like stand out. And I think it's because of the flexibility that was offered. And then it made me just kind of look at them a little closer. Like, we really have some untapped talent here. And, we put people on the sales floor and we give them a big brother or someone to shadow. And we really probably need to do this for any of our female colleagues, because a lot of them want to learn other departments. A lot of them just want to be better at what they do, or they want to move up. So much like you with the career paths, we started looking at that, and then mentorship, and then just an entire women's initiative within Premier. And it's really gaining momentum. I think, like you said, when they came up afterwards and said, we want more, I think that's what anyone's going to get at this point. A lot of interest. And we had a wonderfully positive response from our male colleagues as well, who wanted to be really supportive of it and sponsor them and even mentor them. So definitely mentoring. That's just key.
Excellent. Yeah, the mentoring is such a big part, and some of that is made more difficult for women, right? And this was something that I had really never considered until I did an interview with Erica Tiffany Wells and Kerry Wise from WOCAN. And Kerry Wise had made the statement of, there were no mentors that looked like me.
Yeah.
I'm sad to say this was like 4 years ago. Like, that was the first time that ever really dawned on me. Like, before that, it was like, well, just get a mentor, get a mentor, get a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's lots of mentors that look like me, right? Maybe they have more hair, but they still fit the bill, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately for women in the industry, even though they could have a male mentor, that's a completely different view of how the world is working, how the dealership is working, and what it takes to really get ahead. And so, Skylar, I want to ask you, as a woman in automotive and as a young woman in automotive, what are some of the challenges that you see that you're facing, that maybe some of your male counterparts are not facing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, so our dealership is not actually open yet. So we are currently constructing. So I haven't necessarily faced too many challenges yet. So right now, like, I'm just trying to get as much training as I can and going to all these different events. And I'm happy to say that so far I really haven't run into any challenges. Everybody that I've met has been extremely welcoming, inviting, helpful, giving me their information. If you need anything, let me know during this process, which I'm sure, unfortunately, will not be the case throughout my whole career. But as of right now, I really haven't faced any challenges, which I think is a good sign as to where the automotive industry is headed, because I think that people are becoming more aware that women are just as capable, if not more, in some areas than the men, and should be given that chance to prove that.
I agree. Yeah. I think it's a good time, because I agree. I think it's a good time. It's almost at the height of the awareness right now.
Mhm.
So, and Katie and I have talked before, like, there's been so much awareness. It's at the height of it. Now it's like, all right, now let's start doing. Let's start pushing the doing. The awareness and the conversation has been awesome. But I know she and I are like, all right, so when's this going to go into play? When's this going to go into action? So now it's like, that's the next step. So I think Skylar's right on point. I think she's coming in at a great time, at the height of the awareness. And then she can really, from inception with her group, set a tone and a culture, with that. And with the support of all the people that you're networking with, and I just think the mentorship, one thing about mentorship for women, I find, and we were just discussing this with some of the people I have on the board in our women's leadership group, is mentorship's great in that within the stores they can help you as far as the skills and your job and all that. But as females, I always also think back to myself when I was in my 20s, when I first got into this business, and I thought, what would I have needed or wanted back then, mentorship wise, outside of just job skills? Well, you get put in situations with predominantly male men, whether it's in a meeting or whether it's in a social arena that's business related, or just anything like that. And things like just proper conduct and culture and stuff like that. And I think mentors would do a great job with that. Like a very good friend of mine, Paige Goodwin, who works with Gulf State, she spoke last year at Women in Automotive, and she said one of her mentors took her under her wing and included things like that, like when it's time to go home from a company function, and just everything to have, because it's all part of your professional self, and I think having a mentor kind of quietly helps guide those areas of conduct and culture to your benefit as well, so those are things that are important to mentor women on. I think it's important to mentor men as well. I just think they have a whole different way of doing it, but I think they should all be, directed on conduct within a workplace.
Well,
Yeah.
the reality is, I mean, as much as we, yes, we all as women have an active choice, right? To show up, be excellent, to not lean into excuses, to, take those barriers that are very much there and move them out of the way. Like we can't wait for that equality gap to close. We need to be the one that walks towards that line. Like there, at some point, I mean, excuses are excuses, right? Like at some point. But in saying that, those obstacles are very real and true to women. And so I love that you say that as part of the mentorship, I mean, it's a reality, right? It's like, hey,
Reality.
you do need to know when you have to leave those functions. Like Skylar and I were talking about this a little bit. We were at the IS20G together, and I know when to dip out. I know when it's time. I know when no business is being done, and it's time to do that quiet exit. And I love, Tracy, that you came back full circle to mentorship, because a lot of women don't know how to even ask or look or for a mentor, where to start. So I'd love to open up to the three of you, because I want to give women action, right? I don't want to just talk about the awareness. Like, what are the things that they can do to find a mentor, to start the process, to, find that bravery and walk through, fear with courage to raise their hand and say, hey, yeah, I actually need a mentor and I want one. Can you be that one? So what can women do to solidify that mentorship and then sponsorship? Because that's the next level.
I'll jump in. I think it's finding someone that has, some kindred spirit with you. Just you relate to them on some level. It doesn't have to be every level, but you feel some things in common, and just start it as a casual friendship. And then when you see that there can be more, ask the question. Ask if they're willing to take you on as a mentor. I'll just be giving some employees advice, and they'll be like, wow, you're really good at this. I wish I could talk to you more often. And I'll often say, well, let's do that. Let's talk on a regular basis and informally mentor them until it becomes something more formal.
Yeah. I think in our group, something that's been helpful is when we started Premier Women in Leadership a couple years ago, we immediately, and we've since grown it, that we've sort of, I make sure we sort of throw out everyone's role, how long they've been doing it. And I just asked, who's willing to be a mentor? If so, raise your hand. And those who would like to, or speak to someone about potentially being a mentee, reach out. I just sort of make it already available. I was able to do that because we had so many people raise their hand, obviously, because much like what Ruth was saying, just in conversation, they'll say, oh, wow, I wish I could talk to you more about this. And that's when you have to say, yeah, I mean, call anytime, but it can't just be one person. So by making it available throughout the company within each store of who's willing to help whoever, that helps. It gives them a direct go-to. And then if they're still a little skittish, I've kind of behind the scenes asked the veteran, I'll call them veteran female colleagues, to maybe reach out and check up on some of them anyway, because they're afraid to ask. And then another thing is I've encouraged them to try to maybe start doing little, not team building, but just maybe within their stores, little collaborative, Premier Women in Leadership sponsored like breakfasts or lunches, or bring it in and just open up for discussion. Because it's so unbelievable to me, because I'm someone who talks a lot, obviously. Someone who just doesn't want to raise their hand and ask, or they're nervous to. It's like, that's one of the main reasons that I really wanted to start Premier Women in Leadership, to draw that out of people. Like, just pull it out of all these untapped talented, just untapped talent we have, because they're not raising their hand or bringing their own, seat to the table, or even asking for help. So I'm like, let's just throw it all in front of them, so they can't help but, have it to be available to them, so collaboratively, obviously. So.
Yeah.
Tracy, I totally hear you about like people not willing to speak up for themselves and make the ask. We had a similar problem when we started our mentoring program. So we actually tapped people on both sides, mentoring and mentee. We're like, I don't think you understand how much you're admired in the organization, how much you can help others and, pull them up to your level, help them with their careers. So we had conversations on both sides, mentors and mentees. Mentees, like, they're not necessarily struggling. They're rising stars, like, we want you to become successful in your career here at Velo. What can we do to help you? We noticed you're working on your presentation skills. Like, Jill is really great at presenting. We'd love you guys to partner on the next presentation that you do.
Right.
So things like that, just like making the connections for people. And I think that's part of what we do as women that we're strong at, right? We see the need and we felt the need.
Yeah. The connections are, it's definitely a plus.
Yeah. And as for me, I mean, someone who recently has gotten into the space and who is just in that mentee position and not, in a mentor position yet, of course, Katie has been amazing. And honestly, I mean, one of my biggest blessings since coming into this space. And she
is amazing.
I mean, it was really just a right place, right time thing. But because, I met her in February?
Yeah,
No,
I think it was.
March.
It all
at an 800% event with Glenn Lundy, and Glenn had asked her pretty last minute to go, and she did. And then, we met, and I was scared to ask because, this was my first automotive event. This was my first time around all of these people. And my dad was like, just ask her. And I was like, well, like, I don't know how, like, I'm, and because he was there with me, and he went up to her and was like, so how does Skylar go about getting a mentor? Not fishing at all.
Basically, just threw you in.
Like, well, just ask, I'll be your mentor. And here we are. And she's gotten me into all of these amazing events. She's here. I mean, the Sales 20 group, ASOTOCon, Women in Automotive, just everything. So, I mean, she's been tremendous in my growth and just everything. So, yeah, I mean, just going out and asking for it.
That's a big part, is asking for it, though, right?
Yeah.
And that's sometimes the really difficult part.
Yeah.
Is asking for it. And that's why, like, Ruth and Tracy, and as leaders in the stores and in your company, Ruth, is being out in front and showing people that it's okay to ask for it. And I mean, when I was running stores, one of the most powerful things you can do is going to somebody and saying, going to an advisor and saying, I need your help with something. And it's, John is struggling with XYZ, and you're really good at it. Could you give him a little bit of help with that?
Yeah.
And just being out in front to help them. We can see the people that should be mentors, right? Sometimes they can't see themselves, but we can see it. And as leaders, we need to be out there and kind of giving that gentle tug, like, come on, come and help the others.
Yeah, because that tug gives them the confidence maybe to
Mhm.
do that little bit of just push them over the edge, like, come on, like, not necessarily to find their voice, but that leads to more confidence, which leads them
Yes.
to finding their voice. It's just one little thing at a time. I mean, to tell you, just most of my mentors were, a lot of them were men, but just a little bit of confidence that they would show in me would give me the confidence to go, okay, I've got this. And then a little bit more and a little bit more. And then, it's something that small, just that little nudge, that I think goes really far,
Absolutely.
so exactly like Ruth was saying, even with something specific, like you're working on your presentation and then coupling them with that exact skilled mentor, the one that's a compliment to the mentor and it's a compliment to the mentee that you're a rising star, or this isn't because you're not good at what you do, it's because we see so much potential. Let's build on it.
Exactly.
I do think. Oh, go ahead, Ruth. No, go ahead.
I'm such a talker. I'm sorry, Katie.
Go.
I think the best mentors and our best leaders are usually very humble, right? They don't see the qualities that we see in them. They just are naturally that way. So they don't always think of themselves as having the skills that they could share with others. And then, like you said, a little nudge and they're the perfect mentor.
Yeah. Katie's a good one at giving nudges.
Well, so I think that's one thing that, and maybe I've gotten it because I came into the industry, so it's kind of foreign to me to not just use my voice and speak up. Don't get me wrong, I've had my challenges. I've been told, out as a woman, obviously a woman, a female consultant, a speaker, it's actually very male dominated space. There's very few women, keynote speakers, and from a consultancy perspective, most of the consultancies, especially in the customer experience world, are owned by men, not by women. And I've had my hurdles, like, oh, you're too young and too pretty. I've had my mentors tell me you're too young and too pretty to make it in this industry. You have to change. So I'm like, I'm not going to dim my light. I'm not going to change who I am. But I've also chosen to take that feedback and use it for my better. But I'm going to circle back to the just asking for it, because I think it's really important to realize, as women, yes, there's a lot of obstacles, and I know I keep going back here, but there are things we can choose to do, and choosing to ask, like, nobody's standing in our way to do that, right? So that's one sort of excuse. I'm going to use the word excuse, that we can move out of the way right away, and we can choose to put ourselves out there. We can find that courage to do something scared, and I think that's really important message for women to hear. I do scary things every single day. I raise my hand every single day with a thought, maybe that it's possible that someone says no, but that's the worst case that's going to happen, right? Is that somebody says no. So then you've asked and and you can readjust and move on. And so I think it's really important that and with all the love in my heart to every woman that's listening, kind of get over yourselves a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, it's time you're amazing. Every woman's amazing. We all have the skills to do what a man does. And we just need to believe in ourselves a little more and walk through with courage. So, to cap off this conversation about mentorship, the worst thing that a mentor that you're approaching can say is no.
Yeah.
But you'll never know if you don't ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And if they say no, you'll learn how to deal with that. I mean, it's a skill.
It's 1,000% it is.
It's a skill.
There's speaking up and being brave, right? And walking through it in courage, like you said, Katie. But there's also like a period, if you're going to grow, and I can't remember who wrote, there's probably tens of millions of books on it, but like, if you're going to grow, there's a period of discomfort, right? So you also have to get comfortable being a little uncomfortable in your career as you grow. So I think a lot of people, that's like a muscle that you have to build. Maybe you start small. It's, raising your hand for something, asking for the mentor. That's the small steps. And the bigger steps are asking for that next promotion, asking for that raise, working on what is my North Star? What am I trying to accomplish in my life?
Yeah.
All right. And I'll take a one quick break. And Ruth, you led us into this perfectly. This is for our quote of the week.
No idea.
Rarely are opportunities presented to you in a perfect way, in a nice little box with a yellow bow on top. Here, open it. It's perfect. You'll love it. Opportunities, the good ones, are messy, confusing, and hard to recognize. They're risky. They challenge you. Susan Wojcicki, I cannot pronounce that. That is actually the former CEO of YouTube. And the quote of the week is brought to you by Parts Edge.
Nice.
And so
Very
that was a perfect lead in there, right? It's
was.
that discomfort that that we all have to go through. And you're right. I don't know who wrote that, Ruth, but I remember when Glenn was on the Fixed Ops Mastermind a couple of years ago, he talked about think about when people are close to death, right? They always say they want you to be comfortable. Everybody wants them to be comfortable. And he's like, I don't want to be anywhere near comfort because that's where that's where they're trying to bring dead people. So we need to is a difficult way to make a point, but he made a point. Comfort is great if you're on vacation and on the beach or whatever. But to be able to get anywhere, you have to go through some discomfort. And that requires asking the tough questions. And like you said, Tracy, it's facing the no's and not getting turned away by that no, right? That no just means that you didn't ask the right question, right? So you've got to go back and look inside and figure out what the right question is to be able to get a yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Tracy, staying with you for a sec. So, customer experience officer. I said when we were first introduced that I thought it was great that a dealership group had a customer experience officer. I think dealerships are really, really good at talking about the customer experience and then doing silly things to say it was to better the customer experience. And so what are two questions here? What are some of the things that your group is doing to help a customer experience? And also on the other side of that, what challenges do you face with your team when you try to implement some things where maybe they're going, why are we doing this?
Well, what we do is, and as chief experience officer, that's sort of what that means is, I oversee the customer experience in all of our stores. By doing that, I have kind of the general managers and point people in each store, and we monitor obviously factory reporting and survey responses and online reviews and all of that stuff. And we really take the feedback we get and we use it to make changes where we need to make changes. And we try to apply it obviously based on our customer's voice. So that's, just having the awareness. We talk about awareness with women in automotive. It's literally the same thing as far as the experience you want your customer to receive. We have a constant awareness with, and there's a constant present conversation going on about, the customer survey reports, the online reviews, the feedback we get from customers, all of that. And we try to take it into consideration and change processes and deliver an experience, because it's like my boss said in a meeting once, he's like, we aren't delivering the product, we're delivering the experience, and we have to be able to set ourselves apart. So we try to keep an awareness of that. Now, with 40 dealerships, that can be really hard to spearhead from just corporate. So I rely heavily on the people in the stores to do that. And some do an over the top job. Some of them have their challenges, but we try to action plan them that they, when they do. So as long as we can stay on top of it, that is a priority for us. That's the reason I role. And then second to that, we appeal to, part of our DNA is a lot of the nonprofit stuff we do. We have a nonprofit, so we roll that in with our customer experience. Like, we have a nonprofit where we give back a lot locally and through Giving Hope, and we make it part of the customer experience. We let them know with every dollar they spend with us what it's gonna contribute as far as doing something good in the world or doing something good locally or helping with this or helping with that. And it really promotes that really good relationship and rapport. And because it's such a big part of our DNA, that's why we make it part of the business side. Because many businesses, many dealerships do a lot of wonderful things in the community and giving back. We happen to have our own nonprofit that just has significantly grown year over year, and our employees like being involved in it outside of the dealerships. So because it's just, like I said, because it's such a big presence, we bring it into the customer experience as well. We have, literature on it. We, again, like I said, we accrue money for every dollar that we make, and we put it back to, the nonprofit. So we let customers know that too, that who they're doing business with, what we're about, and look, it's a constant, ever changing playing field. And I could say that, and we do this, and are we successful 100% at every store in doing it? No. I still get customer calls of people trying to get through to the owner because they're upset that their special order car still isn't here yet, and it's like, so that's the reason for the ongoing training. I'm highly involved with the digital arena and the training parts of our corporate office where, there's a customer centric training for them as much as there is a, how to make gross or how to write up an RO. There's customer centric training, there's customer experience training, and that's ever evolving because everything's evolving. So we just try to stay on top of it. I love sharing best practices with other groups. I try to do that a lot. I've done it a long time with other either experienced officers or just other, groups I come across in networking, and I take from that. And it's and I think collaboration is key too, because some of the best ideas we've gotten were ones that others have shared with us, and vice versa. So and some of it's trial and error, like, well, we tried it, it didn't work, but it's definitely a daily thing, but I enjoy it because, a lot of the trial and error, we might do it in one store. And so next time the next store that's having the same problem, I'm like, well, let me tell you, we've already done the work here. Let's do it this way now, so, I think the second part of the question was the challenge. The challenge basically is when people don't want to fix what's not broken. That's great, but you're going to rest on your laurels just because you're not having issues. Then you're not going to stand out. Then you're not going to deliver an above average customer experience. You're just going to be status quo. So the challenges that I come across are the ones that are just good with, well, look, we have good scores, or we have this. It's not, don't rock the boat. It's like, yeah, but down the street, your competitor's doing this, so that's usually the challenge I run into when I want to change something and they won't buy in automatically. It's a lot easier to get them to buy in when, their performance level's low. They're open to anything. But when their performance level's good and we just want to take it up a notch, that's when they kind of push back and go, really, Tracy, do we need to? Yeah, we do. And it's like, let me tell you why. But I really try to present it where it's not being pushed on a store. It's let's figure this out together. Okay, let's throw this against the wall and see what sticks together. Like, I'm on the whole typical, I'm part of your team, and I am, because if we try it and it doesn't work, it's back on me, But if it does, then we're all like, all right, good deal, So that would be the biggest challenge.
Awesome. All right.
I'm giving y'all that 10-minute rant because I do like to talk to
I love what you said there. So one of my mentors, in the customer experience space, has always said to me that there's never a ribbon cutting ceremony. Like you've never arrived, you've never, finished and hit that finish line, because the reality is technology is always evolving. Your business is evolving, the people
Yes.
in your business are evolving, and your customers are evolving. So if we stand still and rest on our laurels, we're gonna, get behind.
Yep.
So there's never this moment where it's like, oh, I finally developed and trained and executed this incredible customer experience, and internal and external customer experience, by the way, because internal and external. It just doesn't happen because everything is ever evolving. And right now we're evolving at like lightning speed.
Yeah. And when you think you've got it, it's changed. It's already changed.
Exactly. It's already changed. You're already behind anyways. So you got to keep moving.
Yeah. So you always, so.
Yeah. And so Skylar, as you guys are building out your store, what are some of the things that you guys are thinking about in terms of customer experience?
Oh gosh, we have so many ideas. So my dad has been in the automotive space for like 28 years, ever since he was 18, so his whole life. And he's always been customer first, has always been, what he has believed in. He's had customers follow him from dealership to dealership just because he takes care of them. So we really want to be that customer focused, that community focused. So our dealership motto is love others, serve others. So everything that we're putting into this dealership, it is for the community. It's for our customers. It's for our employees. So really just, catering to that experience and doing what they need from us. So whether that be us having a shuttle service while their car's getting worked on, or say they sell us their car, but they aren't ready to buy a new car. So making sure that they're able to get home after that purchase, setting up different things at the dealership for, that time that they're there, so that they're not focused on, oh, it's taking 30 minutes to get my financing to go through. I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs, so that they have something to do. We've talked about, having just different ways to just pour into the community, really. And we've taken a lot of ideas from the past couple events that we've gone to, and different ways that we can implement just the ways to make the customer experience the best possible. We want to be different than all the other dealerships around us. We want people to come to us and know that they're going to be taken care of. And it's not something that they're going to dread, because let's face it, most people dread going to a car dealership, whether that be for service or for sales. Most people don't enjoy it. So we want to take that stigma away. And I think that with the way the automotive industry is going, it's getting better. But we want to make it a fun experience for people.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Ruth, hold on to that question, because I'm going to come back to you with that question. But we're going to do our stat of the week. 2024, 88% of customers think customer service is more important than ever. And in 2022 and 23, that number was 83%, telling us that customers' expectations are rising. Our statistic of the week is brought to you again by Parts Edge. And so the lovely Katie Maras gave us that stat there. And for those of us who are in the stores, I don't think it's any surprise to know that customer expectations are rising, right? But they have a right to have their expectations rise, right? That's let's face it, we have kind of let them down over the last few not few years, few decades. We've let customers down. So to have expectations rise is only natural. And so Ruth, we'll come back to you with as head of customer success. What are the things that you're doing? You have a little different experience with that, but what are you guys doing for the experience of your customers?
Absolutely. For the audience, just so you know, Velo actually, we have software that's used in dealerships and shop management shops and repair shops. So what we do is we want to make sure that the customer experience for our shops and dealerships is streamlined and efficient and as easy as it can be. So we're working on it from a software angle. some of the things that we've done is analyze, how many clicks does it take to get a repair order created? We do net promoter score. So we survey our customers quarterly to see what they're seeing in the software that could be better. We have customer advisory boards. So we take some of our most loyal and non-loyal customers and have them join us in group discussions on a monthly basis to see how the industry is evolving and how we can keep up with it and what we can do in the software world to make the experience for our end consumers even better. Integrating things like payments structure, so consumer financing options into our shop management systems, as an example, is something that came from our customer advisory board. So we're doing a lot of things. We're always trying to learn new ways to get feedback. We have what we call it's called Canny in the software. Our users can actually submit their requests for improvements and changes. So every avenue of discussing with our customers we do. We're meeting with them one-on-one, we're meeting with them in groups, we're sending surveys, and we have a feedback loop, which is Canny, where they can actually submit their requests.
Yep.
Can I ask a question to? Sorry, Dave. Can I jump in? So it's awesome to get the data, right? Data is important. Everybody talks about data. Tell me all about my customers, their wants, their needs. But having two customer experience other experts on here, that do it for a full-time career, I would love to know how you go about taking that data and putting it into action, like to change the experience for the better. So do you have any tips for those that are watching to, it's great. They all have the data too. They all look at CSI scores and NPS and they all look at those things, but what can they do to actually make a shift in the experience they provide so that they don't disappoint their customers?
I can speak from a dealership standpoint. So, with a lot of the reports we get, we can really dive down into not just an area that we're excelling in or trailing in, but who's the cause of it. Like whether it's a service repetitively, a certain service writer, certain manager, certain salesperson. So generally a couple things, we'll take the approach of, if we are continually trending low in a certain area, that's the area that the managers will shift to. And then let's say in the new car department, we're trending low in follow-up or delivery. Then that's in those sales meetings, that's what they're doing their quick trainings on. They'll shift it to that instead of just doing an all-encompassed one. All right, guys, we've got some work to do with delivery. This is what we're going to spend the first 10, 15, however minutes, or the whole sales meeting on to improve our skills. Now, sometimes they'll incorporate material that like I've given them on training and delivery or tips or whatever, and we'll collaborate. There's been times where I'll go in and do the training with them, or somebody will. And then, so for, kind of similar with sales as well. I mean, with service as well. They'll kind of huddle up and have their like a lunch meeting, bring in pizza and be like, guys, we've got to get this score up as far as the MPIs, because our reports are showing us that's where we're trending low. Or now I do like to make sure on the areas that we're excelling in, they recognize that. Obviously, you started out with, look, we're doing a great job on this, and that, but we really got to put some attention to this. So, I'll collaborate with the managers and they'll say, what material do you have on this that I can teach on or share with or speak to? Or a couple of them will ask me to come in and do it with them. So that's what we do as far as pinpointing specifics. Now, if we go further, and we usually do, and we see that it's a lot of the cause for a low trend might be coming from a specific salesperson or an employee or service advisor, then we one-on-one with them. It's like, all right, this person just needs some more training, probably. Let's get them some more training, and we'll one-on-one with them and see if that helps, and then as a department, I will say, other than the training and the one-on-one, I will get with the department manager and we'll kind of put an action plan together, like a 90-day action plan. All right, guys, what are we going to do different to move this needle? And then we'll collaborate and decide, well, let's do this instead of this. We, as a team, we come up with a strategy on to make specific changes, like even if it's changing the hours for the service drive up or the drop off, or having a dedicated service receptionist instead of having the writers answer the phone themselves if we see that people feel like they aren't getting their phone calls returned, or like, just, all right, well, then let's try this for 90 days, and then we come back and we visit it, so from a dealership standpoint, that's kind of how we rely on it. So
I'll just jump in from any product standpoint. When we have all this data, I think the changes, I've done a little studying up on change management. And in order to get people to make changes that benefit our customers, you really have to help them see the benefit to themselves as well. So this will benefit our customers, and this will also benefit you. And why is it going to benefit you? So usually when I'm looking to make a little bit of a paradigm shift, that's what I'll be talking through, is like, this is going to benefit you because it'll be so much easier in those customer interactions. Not as many complaints. You'll see that we retain customers at a higher rate. So that's what I often look for, is the what's in it for them.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, Tracy, I think you actually said something very similar the first time we were talking about the experience and how you got people to buy into it to make those changes. So I think we're all on the same page there. It's just different ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless you're going to go somewhere else with this, Dave, I know we have 13 minutes left here, but Tracy, I'd love to, now going off of what Ruth said, how did you get that buy-in? Because that's where a lot of dealerships struggle right now, is it's like turning a cruise ship, and who moved my cheese, and how do you really get the buy-in to focus on the customer? I mean, to us here, it's common sense, right? But common sense isn't so common everywhere. The reality is, without a customer, that employee, anyone in the dealership doesn't have a business or food on their table, right? The customer's the one. I know that the entity, the business, pays the wages, but without the customers, there's no money to pay the wages. So, I mean, for us here, it's a no-brainer, but that's not how it is everywhere. So how, in a 40 rooftop group, I mean, that's a lot of who moved my cheese. So how did you get that buy-in?
Usually we get buy-in kind of similar to what Ruth says. We give them facts and let them know this is going to help you work smarter instead of harder. And we let them know how it's going to benefit them, whether it be through a cost savings, an inventory advantage, anything like that. I mean, their standings with the factories are a big deal, so I kind of try to give them facts as well, to get the buy-in. Like, we've done this at one store. A lot of times we will try something at one store, like pilot something. And when it proves to really go well, then you've got FOMO. Then one general manager doesn't want to miss out what the other one's doing. So, but it gives it more credibility, obviously, as well. And generally, the general managers that want to pilot at their store are really the smart ones. They're the ones that know that they have to stay on top of change. So they're like, you can do it at my store. And, and it's just like, that's genius, So generally I can get buy-in from, same thing, letting them know what's in it for them, how it's going to be easier. Let them know the benefits of it through, whether it be through the factory or through the bank or through the customers. If, for example, if I'm talking to them just about their online presence, online reviews, I will give them statistics on the search engine that Google has, or the optimization and the algorithms, and how they're going to pop up when a customer Googles for, let's say, a Nissan Sentra. I'm like, guys, and I got their attention this way. If the customer goes in and wants the Nissan Sentra and they live a block behind the dealership, and your online rating with Google is like a 4.2, and a Nissan dealership 10 miles away is a 5.0, their name is going to pop up before yours to your customer block behind you. So when I present the idea, I like to try to have some real substance behind it that's going to get their attention. Well, that got their attention. They're like, wait a second, but that's my primary market area. I'm like, yeah, but so thus I get attention with social online reputation. They got the importance of it because I was able to give them some really hard facts. So they know if their online reviews are low, that could affect them in search SEO marketing and stuff. And so they'd be spinning the wheel. So, I think that if you give them some what's in it for them, and just like Ruth said, and then obviously give them the logic side of it, and but speak to them in their language. I mean, our guys do a great job at their online reputation management. They really keep an awareness in their dealerships and they take pride in it. And so but I remember specifically when we had that meeting, all their eyes were like, what? And they were asking questions. So if you can bring to the table stuff like that, I think it gives you good backup, good cred.
Yeah. I love the piloting. That's like a really good point, Tracy. Like, not only do they see it work somewhere else, but that person that's open to change, who is usually the leader in the group, the smart ones who want to try the new ideas, they're also usually pretty charismatic and convincing. Yeah. And that hearing it from your peer.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because you're not hearing it. It's not being pitched to you by a vendor or someone. It's someone that's your peer, and they'll ask questions. Well, so-and-so, how did this work though, when they rolled it out of it? So it's smart. It's really smart. It's beneficial.
So how do you choose, Tracy, when you decide to pilot it? Do you just ask for volunteers, or do you kind of know at this point, like, I've got 5 leaders?
It's a couple things. It depends on the product. I mean, there's always the ones that we know are willing to pilot in their stores. And then there's depending on the product, it might be one that will pick up one of the smaller stores where it's a little easier to manage, rolling out something depending on how different the product is. If it's going to be something that is really, then you don't want to roll out at your biggest, most volume store. You'll pick something smaller. Other times we do it based on a need. Like if it's something that we think is going to kick into effect really quick on, let's say, I don't know, SEO. I'll stick with SEO marketing. We're going to pick the store that probably could benefit from it the most, on top of it being, and then we think, okay, this one needs it the most. Will it work okay in their store with their size and their management and stuff like that kind of thing? But I don't know that we've ever been told no by any of the stores we approach. The GMs are always open to it, but sometimes some of them volunteer and say, I'll put it in my store, kind of thing. Or we'll put it in a couple stores, different markets, because we do have different areas. So you can get a good response.
All right. Well, we are about 6 minutes away from finishing here. It has been a quick hour with some great information that you all have brought to the table here. One last question that I have, and I started out talking about the industry shortage of talent, right? And the easy answers that I threw out there were that we needed to get more women into the business. We need to get more youth into the business. The bigger question there is, how do we do that? What are the things that we need to do to actually start to make this happen?
I think we need to market directly to them. I think we need to sell it because it's an easy sell now. Like, it might have been harder to sell it 20 years ago. There wasn't that much appealing about it to the younger generation or female, even though I was a female and I was younger and I got it. So, but I grew up in it. So I think that's my link to it, my connection to it. But I think if we sell the career or the industry to them and let them know about culture and let them know about it can be fun. It's never boring. It's flexible. ever changing. I think if we market to the younger generations and we market to females, whether it be through, social media or job fairs or events that are at your locations, targeting those, I think they just need, I mean, and not to say don't do it with everyone. We should do that with everyone. But if we're specifically looking for females and younger generations, I think that we should just, market it and sell it to them, because show them all the great things about it, but, point them out. Like we have just like we have a Y premiere on our websites, and we have things like why you'd want to be a technician, or why you'd want to this. We have why you'd want to be a female in our company too. Like you just gotta put it out there,
Yeah, I agree. Women definitely want to see themselves in whatever industry it is, but they want to see themselves there because it says it's safe. So the more we can market it, the more we can get other women who are currently in the industry sharing amazing stories like what you're doing, Tracy, and your organization is doing, out there with the world. Or Skylar, like your testimony that you made today, getting that on social media and saying how welcoming it is. That's like the first step. The second step, though, is, disappointment is expectations not met, right? So if you put it out there, you got to walk the talk. Yeah. And, Mabel just made a comment here, and she says, we need to make the men in the industry more aware and hold them accountable when they say we are all for women in automotive. Okay, cool. But now what? And that we should be putting career paths into place, and
yes.
Making sure that we can actually see where we're going. So the awareness, and this comes full circle to our, the beginning of our conversation, the awareness is one piece. And I think we're almost there, right? I mean, there's never a ribbon cutting ceremony. You have to keep going. I mean, we have to, get that information out there. We need more women talking about the good in the industry, so other women raise their hand, open that door, build that table. We have to. I mean, if there's a woman listening here today, I really hope you get on social, get on a story, promote your dealership if you love working there, because that will help other women and female consumers, by the way, trust you more and come and do business with you, whether you're an internal or external customer. But there's nothing worse than when the outward appearance doesn't match the internal experience, because then you break trust. And when you break trust, it's just no good. So I believe that there's a lot more to do with the action, the steps that they need to actually deliver on all the goodness, so we can attract all the women we want. I think we're pretty much there with awareness, where people are raising their hand. But the culture and the employee experience, the end-to-end dealer experience, that needs to shift. And we need to actually make that cultural change.
Agreed.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, like you said too, I mean, part of it too is seeing people that look like you in the industry.
Yeah.
When we were just at the Dealer Synergy event, I would say it was probably about 40 to 50% women. Correct me if you disagree, but I would say that it was pretty close to half women.
Yeah, like 30% women. I would 30, 40 in there. But there was way more women than I expected.
Definitely.
Just like
exactly. And so my starting role, with the dealership is mainly going to be in the buy center, the acquisitions. And I've already hired a woman who is also 24 to buy cars for us. And she's never worked in the industry. She's done restaurants, she's done sales, she's done management. So I think she's going to be a great fit. And like you said, with that, building a career path, as long as, she enjoys it and is producing, the plan is for her to then take that over once we get a little bit more established. So, already just like you've said, setting that career path into place and just bringing women and showing them that, the auto industry can be fun. And it is for women. And then that culture as well. We plan on having a very close, family type culture, as, it's me and my dad. So we want everybody else to feel like they're a part of the Resurrection Automotive family as well. And then building that employee culture, you'll build the customer centric culture as well.
Yes,
because
you will. Absolutely.
People, then they'll take care of you.
Yep.
Yes. And I know we're coming up right to the end here, but I'm going to make one more point, just because I am a a woman that has come from outside the industry into the industry. And all I can say is if anyone watching has a dealership and takes anything away from today, look outside yourself. Like, go look at Ritz-Carlton, go look at their culture, go look at Chick-fil-A's culture, study those cultures, because that's what we need to implement. Just like your competition is an experience competition. It's not the dealer down the street. It's Starbucks, Nordstrom's, Chick-fil-A, when you can buy $7 sandwich and get a better experience than you get when you buy a $70,000 car, right?
Right.
So we can't keep looking where we are. And I believe that we do need to start looking at the way the greats are doing it and then implementing that, because that's what your internal customer is expecting, because that's where they've worked before.
Yeah.
And then they need that. So I would say, look outside yourself, take those ideas and best practices and start implementing them in the industry. And I think if we do that, we would see a huge shift.
Yeah,
Katie,
it's absolutely true, because you can go to Chick-fil-A and they are going to say my pleasure every single time. Right. And if you can get a 17, 18-year-old high school kid to say my pleasure to a customer every single time, I think we can probably get a service advisor or a general manager to do the right thing for a customer along the way.
Sorry, Ruth,
I was going to say, I think looking outside the industry also goes back to your point, Dave, about like, how do we recruit more people? Like, Katie, you came from outside the industry. I personally came outside the industry. Skylar and Tracy, you were lucky enough to grow up in the industry. But if we want to expand and get more people in, we have to say, I'll look at people that don't necessarily have the background that my current techs do.
Yeah.
So just to put a bow on it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. I'm so excited for this first edition of We Are Women Educating in Automotive Retention and Excellence. Thank you, Katie, Tracy, Skylar, and Ruth. And to our live studio audience, thank you for being here. And for everybody who watched live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, we greatly appreciate you. This episode will be replayed on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the original Fixed Ops Mastermind time slot. We will replay that there. And for all of us here at the Fixed Ops Mastermind, powered by OEM Interactive, thank you. We are grateful for your time.